Good morning. Hi, I'm Jody, one of the assistant principals here at U32, and I have the opportunity to share with you some of the background to how we got to where we are with the transferable skills, sort of the roots of the work and what you're going to be looking at today. Where did it come from? Some of today's learning outcomes are that you understand the evolution of the transferable skills, you're familiar with them, or at least a little more familiar than you were when you started today, that you're able to think about what you already do and how these skills can be assessed in your current curriculum, and also to be able to discuss possible assessment of these skills with colleagues or people with whom you work, whether it's across grade levels or within your buildings. And so we're really excited to be talking about transferable skills pretty much all day today. In April of 2014, the Vermont State Board of Education passed the Manual of Rules and Practices and updated the Ed Quality Standards. And in that work, they stated that each school shall enable students to engage annually in rigorous, relevant, and comprehensive learning opportunities that allow them to demonstrate proficiency in, and this is students to demonstrate proficiency in literacy, mathematical content and practices, scientific inquiry and content knowledge, global citizenship, physical education and health, artistic expression, and transferable skills. That's where the wording comes from, the transferable skills. And on top of that, as you delve deeper into the Ed Quality Standards, there's the graduation requirements, and a student meets the requirements for graduation when the student demonstrates evidence of proficiency in the curriculum outlined in 2120.5, which is that first piece, and completion of any other requirements specified by the local board of the school attended by that student. And this goes into effect according to this for the students who are to graduate in June of 2020, or their anticipated graduation date would have been that. In addition, each secondary school board is responsible for setting graduation requirements in accordance with these rules. So knowing that had been passed, a proficiency-based learning work group was developed across our district. It mainly met at U32 in the evening or after school, but it was born out of a group of educators from across the district. There were elementary teachers, middle school teachers, high school teachers. There were parents, and there were a couple of U32 students, and I remember that there was definitely a community member as part of that work. And I believe there were school board members at times that came into this learning work group, and this group presented to the school board at other times. When they started their work, they started by looking at the Ed Quality Standards and by looking at the samples that the Vermont Department of Ed, now the Agency of Education, provided around transferable skills. They also looked at the U32 core values and belief statements, which had come from a recent New England Association of Schools and Colleges NEASC accreditation process. And so we're trying to pull that work together. There's the core values and beliefs, which used to be in every room here in the building. So that group started meeting in December of 2014, set up their norms as most of our curriculum and district-wide groups do, and also school building groups, and really started digging through the resources. They continued working on identifying some common language, some common themes, some really important pieces of that work, the core values, the samples that were given, and gathering feedback from within our group, from the people who our group members talked to, and from the U32 faculty. They took that list, they boiled it down, and they started reviewing the overarching standards that they were starting to develop and some potential performance indicators. And then there was thinking about, what do we need to do next? The group started meeting again the following year, that's the 15-16 school year, and had to kind of reintroduce ourselves. We had some new members and had to revisit the norms and started using a couple of protocols to really think about where we were going and what we already had done. So we used some affinity mapping, and we also used a 2020 protocol, which is great because this is for the class of 2020, the first to graduate under the proficiency system. Other protocols were used to kind of refine and keep working on that process. And as I said, we shared a lot of that work with the school board along the way. Meanwhile, what's the school board doing? They, after 2014, start discussing student learning outcomes throughout the district, and each board drafted their own version of what they wanted students to know and be able to do to move forward throughout our schooling and also to graduate from our system. And that work was combined and formally adopted in May of 2016. So during that 2016 summer curriculum camp, I took it upon myself as a member of the Social Studies Steering Committee to try to build some of the first draft transferable skills scales, knowing that we had 7th, 8th, and 9th grade teachers that were going to be trying to implement this immediately. And so I worked on the 9th and 10th grade scale while the Social Studies Committee worked on their piece. And throughout last year, some teachers in our middle school also began working on scales to bring down to the middle school level with feedback from their colleagues. In addition, the Curriculum Council took on the role of building the performance indicator progression for transferable skills from pre-K to graduation. So really looking at what was there from that former proficiency-based learning group and editing and making sure it was aligned, making sure it made sense, and building pre-K through graduation. We met several evenings after school throughout last year and then presented a draft of that progression in the February in-service last spring. And so many of you will remember that and remember giving feedback to us. This summer at Curriculum Camp, the volunteers who came together in the Transferable Skills group took that feedback to revise the performance indicator progression. So that now there's a pre-K to graduation version 2 progression that's on the WCSU curriculum resources page, which I'll show you in a little bit. And when that was complete, in our 2 days, 2 really successful days this summer with people from all of our schools, really, and wonderful feedback from the groups that were here for the summer curriculum work in other departments as well. We started working on editing the existing scales, the middle school and 9th and 10th grade, and also pre-K all the way up through. So now there are draft scales for pre-K through grade 10. What are the next steps? The next steps are for you to review and develop familiarity with these skills, for grade-alike discussions and work groups to take place throughout the year during professional development as allowed, to continue any necessary revision, and to allow for developing assessment for these. Really think about how you already have students demonstrating these skills and how to assess that. And the Curriculum Council will look at the drafts from this summer's work and review for alignment and any additional wordsmithing that might need to be done, or there may be something that got put in one scale that's really not necessarily appropriate for that grade level. We'll be doing that kind of work. It's really important to note that the standards themselves, the 6 transferable skills, cannot be changed. They cannot be revised. They are what they are. But the performance indicators and the scales may be revised as we continue our work to continuously improve. So that's where we're going to be looking for feedback today and throughout the year. So thank you in advance for that.